The attack began at 5:30 this morning. The terrorists firing weapons and lobbing grenades, killing many soldiers who were fast asleep.
The worst attack on the army in years. At 5:30 a.m., 4 foreign terrorists armed with Kalashnikovs and under-barrel grenade launchers breached the army base in Uri near the LOC. Between 5 and 7 a.m., armed with incendiary ammunition that triggers fires, the terrorists opened fire on the camp. A fuel dump may have been hit, and the tents Jawans were sleeping in caught fire. 13 Jawans were killed here, with burn injuries. The Indian Army responded, with Jawans opening fire against the terrorists, but visibility was poor. There was fire and smoke everywhere. Finally, para-commandos were called in, and by 8:30 a.m. the encounter ended with the elimination of all 4 Pakistani terrorists.
Since the terrorists had some items which had Pakistani markings on that, I have spoken to the Pakistan Director General of Military Operations and conveyed our serious concerns about the same.
More than 30 Jawans, many in critical condition, are fighting for their lives at the Army's 92 base hospital in Srinagar. The evacuation was swift, with helicopters picking up the wounded within minutes. Surrounded on 3 sides by the LOC, the Army installation in Uri is constantly under observation from POK, which is at a strategic height in comparison to other parts of the line of control.
Hours after the deadly terror strike, there's eerie calm outside this army installation in Uri. But the attack, in which army suffered heavy casualties, may well turn out to be a defining moment in India's response to such attacks. In Uri, with cameraman Sheikh Tariq, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Well, the Prime Minister has made it clear that the perpetrators will be punished. The Home Minister cancelled a visit to the US and Russia and held an emergency security meeting, while the Defence Minister and the Army Chief rushed to Kashmir.
Anger and outrage over the worst terror attack on an army establishment in many years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi offered his condolences and a stern warning that those behind the despicable attack will not go unpunished. Home Minister Rajnath Singh, who cancelled his trips to Russia and America in the wake of the terror attack, held an emergency top-level meet to review the security situation. The Home Minister mincing no words in hitting out at Pakistan, calling it a terrorist state that should be isolated. The audacious attack on the army base in Uri evoked sharp and angry reactions. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti said the attack was aimed to create a war-like situation in the region. BJP's Ram Madhav, in a scathing Facebook post, said that the time for restraint is over. BJP MP and former Home Secretary R.K. Singh echoed the same sense of anger. Even as the country mourned its martyrs, business of politics went as usual. While Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi observed silence in memory of the soldiers, his party colleagues and former Minister of State for Defence Jitendra Singh, briefing the media on behalf of the party, took pot shots at the central government.
During the Lok Sabha elections, there were big slogans given. 56 inch ki chhati, ek ke badle 10 tar hum leke aayenge. But these not have translated into any action by the Modi government. All I see the government doing is sari and shawl diplomacy or biryani and cake diplomacy.
At a time when India has seen one of the worst terror attacks, one would have expected the politics of blame game to stop. But our politicians think otherwise. With camera person Ramesh Tripathi, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Well, joining us for the very latest now is my colleague Nazir Masoodi, who's been reporting all day from Uri. My colleague Sudhir Ranjan Sen is now in Srinagar tonight. Nazir, to you first, the combing operations, are they now finally over? What is the army saying also about the possible lapses that allowed these terrorists to enter what should have been a very highly secure base?
Well, for that, which is also a standard operating procedure, Army has ordered a court of inquiry to look into if there are any lapses and also the circumstances in which these Fidayeen militants, they actually breached the highly fortified fence of this army installation here in Uri, which is behind me. There's eerie calm, but behind this calm is certainly anger and the questions: how could militants reach so close and carry out such a deadly attack on a vital army installation in Uri that is looking after the entire line of control in this sector, looking after counter-infiltration operations, while the same army has carried out successful counter-infiltration operations, have killed several militants in the recent past and have foiled many attempts, but this time there was a surprise. They were attacked, and in which army suffered heavy casualties. This is the highest number of casualties army has suffered in 26 years of militancy in single militant attack. That is the challenge we have. Army has to deal with the aftermath of this attack, not only here along the line of control, but also in the hinterland, because army has a dual job here now. One, to deal with the unrest, that is called the calm down operation, and then dealing with these Fidain, these suicide squads who struck at this army installation and inflicted heavy casualties on them.
Right. Well, so the defense minister was there, the army chief was there. What has really been the takeaway from their meetings with the commanders on the ground?
Well, from what I've been able to gather, Nidhi, it's basically they've been through that area. I mean, the chief of army staff and the Northern Army commander rushed to the spot, whereas the defense minister was here. He's reached Delhi now. But there was, what I've been told is that the attack was discussed threadbare, how it happened, what are the possible, what are the factors that contributed to it, and therefore what now does the army do on the ground. We are going to see a much more aggressive army, in the border areas in the next few days, and also how does it change track. Besides this, what I understand is that once the defense minister goes back, the government will then, decide on India's response, which we have seen that the government indicating that there will be a very, very strong response. Nidhi.
All right, Sudhi, Nazir, thanks a lot for that update, and that is the response. We're going to now look at what the possible response can be, what the options are for India. Joining us on the program tonight, General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, the former Chief of Army Staff, General V.G. Pathankot, the former GOC of the 15th Corps, which is of course based in the Kashmir Valley. He served for several years in Jammu and Kashmir. Ambassador K.C. Singh joins us tonight. Ajay Shukla is here in the studio with us, and we'll be joined shortly by our guest from Pakistan as well. Ambassador K.C. Singh, to you first, looking at the timing of this, why do you think that this particular attack has happened now? Because we've seen Pakistan really upping the ante on the Kashmir issue and the unrest in Kashmir in particular. Nawaz Sharif is planning to raise it in a big way in his speech at the UN in a few days. By doing this terror strike, doesn't that take away from what the Pakistanis were hoping to focus on, because now the entire attention will be focused on Pakistan-sponsored terror? So why do you think this attack happened now?
Look, they want to internationalize it, and they expect that India would have to react, particularly because this government has been taking a more aggressive, a more forward position. They've been aggressive on Baluchistan, on Gilgit-Baltistan, and also in the last few days a more aggressive posture in how to deal with the unrest in the valley. So Pakistan wants to send a message to its supporters in the valley that look, we can attack the army, increase the unrest, but more than that, India has 2 or 3 options. One is diplomatic, overt and covert. Overt means that if you light up the LOC and you retaliate across the line of control, that's exactly what Pakistan army wants. And if you do not retaliate, even that serves their purpose. Because if, as Ram Madhav says, we'll take a jaw for a tooth, then it's seen as empty rhetoric. So in a sense, it puts government of India in a corner, takes the pressure off Baluchistan, takes the pressure off Gilgit and the other issues that we were likely to raise. And it brings the focus strictly on the valley. So it's internal, external, international. Now, if there are calls for covert operations. Now, covert operations can't be talked about. Covert operations, we wouldn't even know if any is conducted. But then Pakistan also wants to point a finger there and say, look, India is also a terrorist state. You're calling us a terrorist state. If something happens in Pakistan, they'll say India's done it. So they are wanting to create a moral equivalence. So it's a complex game that the Pakistani army is playing.
Interesting there. General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, do you see it that way? Do you see it as something that has been deliberately done to internationalize the issue and focus on Jammu and Kashmir? And you said something today, you said India should raise its own suicide squads. What exactly do you mean by that? What does that mean?
Let's come to your first question first. What did you say? You said that, well, Pakistan has always tried to internationalize the Kashmir situation. Earlier, before any such meeting anywhere, in particular in the United Nations, there used to be some kind of a strike, some kind of an attack, some kind of shelling somewhere. So this is all old tactics. This is not a new story. This is not a new story. Now, the people who came across the border are what Pakistan calls, or we call rather, the non-state actors. Now, who are these guys? These are Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, A, B, C, D, lots of guys. Okay, fine. The element is plausible deniability, and the world accepts it. And the world accepts it. It is we who have never played this game of plausible deniability. I think it's about time we started playing this game of plausible deniability. I think we should now look around at a non-state action, non-state option. And I think we should study it seriously, because there are people here who can do it.
But sir, that's a rather controversial thing to say. It's a rather radical suggestion to make, because we are not Pakistan. India is not a state that will sponsor terrorism overtly or covertly. And what you're suggesting is a complete shift in position. You're saying we should raise non-state actors and have the same kind of plausible deniability that Pakistan has.
What you are saying again is what we've been saying throughout. This is a very radical position. India does not support terrorism. India is not like Pakistan. That's exactly what Pakistan wants us to continue believing. It's time, I think, to shift the scenes a little. Give them a new option. Give them something new to worry about.
Well, General Pathankot, let me get your first thoughts on that. What General Shankar Roy Chaudhary is saying. It's very, I will still say that word, radical. What do you think?
It is indeed something that we haven't considered either officially or informally. But the point is that rather than now looking at an option which is likely to take a while, because we certainly can't act in haste, and this is something, whatever response we have in mind will have to be a well thought out one. And the way I see it is that when you take step 1, you actually need to be ready for step 3, because that's the way this whole thing can unfold in a manner in which you retain the initiative at all times. If we simply react to a situation, then we are only waiting for the next action and so on and so forth. So we will remain reactive. Whereas my own view is, since the enemy is waiting for a response from us of one kind or the other, let him sweat it out, let him wait while we consider our options, and when we give it back with interest. It is something that we need to do, which certainly will be out of the ordinary and upping the ante if it has to be. But at the same time, the point is, we should then sort of war game it in our own mind to say, all right, to this, what is likely to be the response of the enemy, and play it out for 2 next moves and be ready for all those moves.
When you say it will be an extraordinary response, what does that mean? Every channel tonight is talking about covert ops, surgical strikes, let's hit camps in POK. We've heard, those discussions before. We've also heard the reasons why India has not done that before. What are those extraordinary measures?
See, obviously at this stage, this is all that you will hear, and you will also hear the same thing from me, for the simple reason that specific tactical options would be incorrect to be discussed here. Even tactical options which will have strategic implications ought not to be even considered in an open forum like this. But surely all these, whatever action you take, whether you like it or not, and whether it's at tactical level or operational level, it will have strategic implications. And therefore, what you've been hearing and what you refer to is exactly what is likely to happen, at least for the next 48 to 72 hours.
So, in other words, Ajay Shukla, what General Pathankot is saying is that the military option is not closed. Your thoughts on that, and also what General Shankar Roy Chaudhary is suggesting here today?
You see, in India, we've perfected the art of deluding ourselves that we have a whole lot of options vis-a-vis Pakistan. If I were to ask General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, where are these Fidain that he's going to launch? Where are you going to get them from? Are you suggesting creating a Hindu terror group or a tanzeem of some kind that would be like a mirror image of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and would send it across? Are we seriously, as a responsible country, as a country that is held in some esteem by the rest of the world, unlike Pakistan, are we seriously considering these responses? I don't think they are being considered at any responsible level. As far as the military options against Pakistan are concerned, if there were any military options that were feasible, that were realistic, I can assure you they would have been used by now. After the Mumbai strikes, the chiefs were gathered together in a room. They were asked
There's a reason they haven't happened.
What the options were. There were no options. We need to understand one thing. We cannot control the behavior of Pakistan, which has repeatedly proved itself to be an irresponsible state. What we can do is mold our own playfield in Kashmir, build up our own military strengths and sort of options in a way that serves to achieve some kind of aim. We don't do what we can do. Instead, we talk about what we can't do and pretend that we are not doing it because the government is weak or the government is lacking in options.
Are you saying we can do nothing vis-a-vis Pakistan, that it has to be the same old formula of maybe now you've brought in Baluchistan, but what do you think India can do? It can do nothing beyond Sushma Swaraj making a speech at the UN?
In terms of military options, if we do something like a strike on Pakistan terror camps, such as we believe that we know where they are, the simple fact is this is not Israel bullying a bunch of weak Arab states around it. We are talking about a nuclear armed state that has a military that is at least comparable to ours, if not as large as ours. So we cannot control the escalation dynamics in a situation like that. We will unleash a monster that we cannot control, that we do not know which way it's going, that is thoroughly irresponsible. Do we really want to be in that
General
position?
Shankar Roy Chaudhary, just a quick response from you, sir, on what Ajay has cautioned there about the way forward.
Yes, Ajay has been saying that for some time. I have my own views on that. Either we sit back and take it, we sit back and lap it up, or we think of other options which can be done. After all, and I will remind your listeners, in 1971 we did create the Mukti Bahini successfully. It did very well. There are options, we can do it, and we know who all can do it.
Well, it's certainly, like I said, a controversial and a radical way to look at things. We have Musharraf Zaidi, columnist and analyst, joining us from Islamabad tonight as well. Musharraf, another sad day on which you're joining us, and this time though, Musharraf, you can see very, very visible tensions between the two countries. People here are just trying to understand why this has happened at this time. We haven't even seen the traditional condemnation of this attack from the Pakistani Foreign Office.
Well, I think partly, Nidhi, it's because we on this side of the border are also trying to understand why this would happen at this time. I'm trying to understand why in what universe it's conceivable that Kashmir, which is on the boil and has been for 70 days, largely because of the overhandedness of the Indian state in that occupied sort of land, that there's an army barracks where people are sleeping at 5:30 in the morning and terrorists are able to attack it, and so many young lives, Indian lives, soldiers' lives ended up being lost. It's beyond conception that in the heightened state of where things are, in that part of the world, right on the LOC or close to it, there's a major military installation where this could happen. For a lot of Pakistanis, the timing is, as you were questioning and as you said at the top of the show, the timing couldn't be worse. After many, many years, without Pakistan having done very much at all, things in Kashmir have come to a state where there's been an escalation of that story into at least the outer periphery of the international community's attention span. This is something that Pakistan, at least, if not all of Pakistan, many parts of Pakistan, have been wanting for a long time, is for Kashmir to be back.
Came from somewhere. You know, the terrorists came from somewhere, and they came, you know, from Pakistan. So the question is that, you know, this could have a serious escalation. How do you look at the Indian Prime Minister's statements today, the Indian Home Minister's statements? These are not statements like we've seen in the past. There is an indication here that there will be some retaliatory action of some sort.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that first of all, where the terrorists came from, you know, this is a question that we ask ourselves almost every day. And often we're told that they come from India, but not everybody in Pakistan buys that or laps it up. And I'm glad that there are reasonable people in India, although, you know, I think Ajay is relatively alone today, who will eschew the sort of overly aggressive and the kinds of things that don't behoove countries. They behoove non-state actors, but they don't behoove countries. And so whether those kinds of things have happened at the behest of Pakistan or they're being proposed to take place at the behest of India, they're equally condemnable. And I think reasonable people, I also understand anger because, again, as a Pakistani who's watched so many of his soldiers buried over the last few years, I get the anger at the situation and the anger at watching your best and your brightest give their lives for your country and for the flag. This is not a feeling that's not known to Pakistan. This time it could escalate. And you know, General Pathankot, if you could come in here on this, and then I'd like to get Ambassador K.C. Singh on that. You know, do you think the Pakistanis are anticipating and waiting for that response? You made that point earlier. They can't be in denial about it. They can't expect that a strike like this is carried out and India will respond in the way that it always did.
See, this has happened in the past as well. Let me go back to situation when General Musharraf was in power, and he was always in denial, and we know that for a fact. And he's the one who's actually gone on and admitted everything that was being done during his regime, if I might use that word. So this denial business is a hogwash, if I can call it that. The point is, behind this denial, in any case, obviously they are expecting a response. Whether that be a military response, whether it will be a diplomatic response, whether it will be some kind of an international pressure kind of a response, or a combination of all this, is something that they don't know. They don't know. And the longer they sweat it out, the better, as far as I can see. The point I'm trying to make is, a thing like this has happened. It is ghastly. It is unprecedented. But therefore, there's no need for a knee-jerk reaction. It's not. There's no compulsion on us to react within 48 hours or 72 hours or X number of hours. Let's take a step which will actually outline our line of approach in future, because it will perhaps be a combination of what I just said, a diplomatic initiative, and at the same time certainly something on the ground, because the biggest problem for commanders at the ground level is to restore morale and to make sure that we all understand that we are strong enough to retaliate.